Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today I will be continuing to read Black Panther, The Young Prince. I started my read aloud of this book about a week ago, so if you're confused where to find part 1 of this, the link will be in the description. So let's get started. Chapter 3. America, M'Baku shouted as they left the royal palace. Can you believe it? So you want to go? T'Challa asked. M'Baku paused mid-step. Of course I want to go. We'll be able to do anything we want, whenever we want. M'Baku did have a point, T'Challa realized, but they'd have to hide their identities. That wouldn't be too much fun. Ah, I get it, M'Baku said, crossing his arms and smirking. You won't get the royal treatment over there because no one will know who you are. You have to live like us commoners. No one waiting on you hand and foot. T'Challa was struck. Was that it? Was he a spoiled brat who couldn't bear the thought of living without all his privilege? That's not it, he said. I want to go, but if Wakanda is under threat, I should be here, with my father, to fight by his side, if it comes to that. Don't worry, M'Baku said. You'll have plenty of time for fighting when you become the next Black Panther. T'Challa paused. Late afternoon light glinted off the mountains in the distance, and he felt the sun on his face. That'll be a long time yet, he replied wistfully. M'Baku clapped his friend on the back. Enough talking, he said. Want to race to the city square? T'Challa smiled. M'Baku was too competitive for his own good. Go! Shouted the young prince. After saying goodnight to M'Baku, who won the race again, to T'Challa's dismay, he made his way to his room, which was set apart from his father's royal quarters. Like everything in Wakanda, his room was a blend of high-tech wizardry fused with nature. His bed was large, with sheets and pillows made from fine fabrics. High-definition moving images of the Wakandan countryside were embedded on flat screens in the walls, and tribal sculptures sat on pedestals and small columns. Under his feet was a soft carpet of woven grass. He sat on his bed and let out a sigh. This was the only home he knew, and he loved it more than anything in the world. The forests, the people, the very culture itself were all a part of him he did not want to lose. Chicago, he said aloud, and then tapped a bead on his Kiyomo bracelet. To an outsider, it would have looked like a simple string of black beads around his wrist, but to Wakandans, it was much more. At birth, every child was given a Kiyomo bracelet to wear. Each bead had a purpose, from storing medical records to taking a picture or projecting a free-floating informational screen, much like a web page, but suspended in midair. T'Challa watched as thousands of tiny black dots swirled from the bead and knitted together to form an image of the Chicago skyline and lakefront. His black cat, Bast, appeared from the hallway and jumped onto the bed. She nudged him with her head, begging for a scratch behind the ears. T'Challa obliged. I'm going to miss you, little one, he said. Bast purred deeply, stretching her neck against his fingers. For a moment, T'Challa's eyes watered, but he quickly coughed instead and pretended it hadn't happened. T'Challa turned back to the screen. In just a few minutes, he learned that Chicago was famous for its sports teams, music, and food. The city was situated right on Lake Michigan, which was known for its cold winters and strong, bone-chilling winds. That was certainly something he'd have to get used to. It was always sunny and warm in Wakanda. He waved his hand through the image and winked out. Bast leaped from the bed and meowed. Want to go for a walk? T'Challa asked. Outside, T'Challa raised his head to the night sky. A crescent moon shone brightly in a field of black, surrounded by gleaming stars. It was hot, like always, and he was glad for his loose-fitting clothes, which allowed the slight breeze to cool him off a little. Perhaps he would take a quick swim in a nearby pond, he thought, although rumor had it that a great crocodile prowled through the reeds there late at night, looking for a foolish victim who decided on a midnight swim. Perhaps not, he decided. Instead, he went to his favorite place, away from the bustle in the city center. He called it the Oasis, a salt marsh surrounded by fragrant trees and flowering plants. He loved being among the African juniper and leopard orchids, the water hyacinth and sweet jasmine. Small creatures stirred in the brush. Night birds whistled, and every now and then a lion roared in the distance. T'Challa looked heavenward. He thought back to the stories his father had told him back when he was a child. Thousands of years ago, his father had said, a great meteor crashed into Wakanda. Amid the smoking and burning debris, something that would change the future of their country. It was an energy-absorbing metal that vibrated upon closer inspection. The warriors of Wakanda crafted weapons from it and learned that it was stronger than any mineral, gemstone, or metal they had ever seen. They called it vibranium. But there was a downside. The crash site was radioactive, and several Wakandans were supposedly turned into demon spirits. That was when the great warrior Bashenga prayed to the Panther god, Bast, for strength and defeated him. He became the first Black Panther, and his line led down through the ages to T'Challa's father and to him. T'Challa let out a breath. There was another story his father told him, and it usually came to him when he was alone or feeling melancholy. It was of his mother, Niamey, who passed after bringing him into the world. She was a true queen of Wakanda, his father had said, beautiful and strong. Sometimes T'Challa imagined her walking hand in hand with his father among their people, proud and loved by all. I wish I had known you, Mother. A rustling in the bushes made him turn. Who's there? He called. All was quiet for a moment, until a figure appeared out of the woods surrounding the oasis. I thought I'd find you here, brother. T'Challa stiffened. What are you doing here? Hunter approached him with a swagger. I always know where to find you. You're as loud as an elephant. T'Challa bristled. His older stepbrother was known as one of the best trackers in Wakanda, even at his young age. I know you're going away, Hunter continued. Father told me. He already knows? Hunter smiled, and it was not friendly. Don't worry. When the fight starts, I'll be here by Father's side, not running off to hide in America. T'Challa clenched his fists. His pulse raced. It was always like this with Hunter, each one upping the other, trying to gain the king's favor. It's not my decision to go, T'Challa said. If it were up to me, I'd stay. I'm not afraid to fight. Hunter laughed and drew close to T'Challa, so that the two boys were facing each other, with only a few inches between them. Hunter's eyes were green, and they gleamed with a cold light. Say whatever you like, little brother, but while you're away, I'll keep your royal seat warm for you. And with that, he turned and disappeared back into the woods. T'Challa fumed. The sting of his words cut deep. But that was what Hunter did best, getting under his skin. I am father's true son, he thought, not you. He thought back to the story his father had told him long ago. Hunter was an orphan, the only survivor of a plane crash in which his mother and father had passed. Many Wakandans didn't accept him because of his white skin, but the king took him in and raised him as his own. But you'll never be Black Panther, T'Challa thought. I have the birthright and the blood. T'Challa looked down. Bast was circling his legs, purring loudly. He reached down and picked her up, returning to his room, Hunter's words still ringing in his ears.